I was born in the city.
And what part of London was that?
Well, it was within the sound of Bow Bells, and at St Bartholomew's when they still did births there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so my parents, both being of London heritage, wanted the same for their little nipper, although they met in Brighton, which is part of my history, really. If they hadn't been doing national service at the RAF base, they wouldn't have met.
So what year was that, Steve?
1957.
1957. You were born in 1957. What were your parents doing at the time?
My dad was a printer, and Mum was pretty much a full-time traditional mum, although worked in Sainsbury's in London Road a little later.
Do you think of yourself as a Cockney?
I do indeed, although I'm quite well spoken. I've been reunited with a Cockney cousin just this year who I hadn't seen since the 60s. And that sort of quite gets you there. A lot of healing going on in the family.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, we're going to be talking about toys, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I'm going to ask you about is whether you had a teddy bear.
I did indeed. His name was Edward. 10 out of 10 for originality. He had very much like very pink, flat, I wouldn't call it fur. I could draw in biro on his chest, and I did. I must have had some envy of school kids before I went to school because I drew a blazer on him, complete with a pocket with pens. And you can almost say I was champing at the bit to go to school, but I soon got disappointed by the time I went to school.
So what was he made of?
He had a very solid chest, but he must have been made of some sort of, I don't know, cloth composite, I suppose. There was quite a structure to it. He had a very sound rib cage, pretty much like most teddy bears do. But he was just very pink, and I think one of his ears was ripped, but he lived through that.
Did you rip it, or did it get ripped in play?
I have no idea. I can't remember.
He lived life.
He did. He lived life to the full. Yeah.
Do you still have him?
I expect my mother does. Yeah.
Did you take him to school with you?
No, I didn't. No.
So he was a private toy.
Yes, I would say he was. Yeah.
Cuddling.
I guess so, but I kind of outgrew him fairly quickly. I can remember that. That by the time I went to school, you know, teddy bears were old hat.
What did he look like? How tall was he?
He was so small, I guess.
That's about
Yeah,
12
something
inches that
Yeah.
you're showing me
Yeah.
there. So he just had one ear. And you drew on him, so he didn't have clothes? Did he have clothes?
He didn't have clothes, no.
He was a good bear. So that was Edward Bear.
That was him, all right. Yeah.
Now, what about other toys to go with him?
I can remember there was a woman opposite in Lowther Road in Brighton, near Blakers Park. Mrs Fitzcosta always used to knit woolen toys for all the members of the family, and I used to have quite a succession of woolen toys that used to be added to the collection every Christmas. One was, for reasons I can't imagine, was called Hokey the Wolf, and he was like a little fox type creature. And the others, their appearances escape me, but I do remember I had quite a collection of them at one point, and because they were quite light, when my dad would read me a story at night and he would say goodnight, he would have this ritual, I don't know which of us started it, of throwing the woolen toys over the door so that I'd then catch them or they'd land on the bed, and I used to call them my pals. I was an only child, very sad. So I say, righto Dad, time for the pals to come over the door. And that was it, a succession of woolen toys would be flung over the door.
They sound quite important to you.
Oh, they were quite important, yes. And the flurry with them flying over the door, that was very important to my childlike fantasy, really.
That's interesting, because knitted toys for boys is quite an unusual thing, I would think. But you obviously loved them.
Oh, yeah, loved them to bits, yeah.
So you played with them. Did you play with other children with those toys?
I don't think that I did. I could be quite a private person as a child. Yeah, no, I have no recollection of playing those woolen toys with any other kids.
Do you have fantasy games with your toys?
I guess I did, but I graduated to cars quite quickly. In a blokey type way. Can't remember what age it was, but I amassed quite a collection eventually of dinky cars and all those.
You obviously enjoyed those as well.
Oh yeah, immensely. Yes, they must have been put through the ringer a bit like the teddy bear, because I wasn't very old when I remember going downstairs one Saturday morning and finding some of my really most battered vehicles, with all the paint chipped off them. My dad was very helpfully painting them all fire engine red, which I hadn't asked him to do, but he was working so hard on it and he was so pleased with what he'd done. I thought, well, I'd better just accept that they're all now fire engine red. It was very funny looking back, because I've tried to help my kids before things without, unbidden, and sort of got that look of, right, okay, Dad. So it's one of those moments.
It's one of those moments. You then went obviously straight from those soft toys. Did you have other dolls? With a man, with a boy, one can think of toys as action men, and as dolls as action men.
Yeah, I wasn't really taken with them at all. I didn't get into the action man thing at all. I remember a lot of kids my age, that would have been, I suppose, not long after '66 when we won the World Cup. Action man was still permitted amongst young boys, getting a sense of wanting to appear macho in different levels, and action man seemed to just roll along until kids were nearly secondary school age, as I remember, but I didn't care for action man at all.
You were more into construction toys, I understand.
Yeah, I was. I think Meccano's set I didn't get on too well with, but there was a rival to Lego called Better Builder, deliberately badly spelt. BETTA BILDA, and that's literally how it was on the packet, the name. And I could form quite ambitious constructions with those, but are completely incompatible with Lego in much the same way as you'd have Betamax and VHS in the 80s, like total rivalry. And there the twain shall meet. I suppose I would develop great big fantasy cities if I could manage it, and undersea empires, that sort of thing, as best I could.
I know nothing about Better Builder, so can you describe what the components are?
Yeah, whereas Lego has got the two little very flat discs at the top which intersect with the corresponding holes in the other unit, these were very much, they had two discs at the top, but they had a raised edge in the centre with a hole, so they're almost hollow, and obviously it was through trades and what have you. What's the word I'm looking for? They obviously couldn't be anything like Lego or be seen to look anything like it, so it was a little bit unwieldy, and I think there were slightly smaller bricks as well, but they were fascinating to work with, and I thoroughly enjoyed working with them.
What were they made of?
Just plastic, same as Lego. Very basic primary colours, pretty much. I think red, white, black, and that was about it.
How old were you when you got your first set?
Quite young, I think, maybe 7 thereabouts. And that sort of figured right up to maybe when I was about 10 or thereabouts.
That's quite a long time to be playing with one toy, isn't it?
I guess it is, yeah.
You must have got very good at it.
Oh yeah, I did. You could give me something and I would just play with it for years, really.
Construction.
Yeah.
Underwater cities.
Yes, something like that, yes.
Tell me more about those.
Well, I was very influenced by Jerry Anderson puppet series and Stingray. I was a bit keen on, and so I would modify Better Builder, which was very much, I suppose, when you think about Lego and its rivals, it would have been symbolic of, now that I've become a bit of a historian in my older years, rebuilding the Europe after Second World War, bomb sites and building, not on the scale that it is now, development, especially down here, but there was very much a theme of building, and I think I chose not to think along those lines. I just lived in a realm of fantasy in my head, really, and I was quite content there, no doubt about it.
Do you think that was because you were an only child?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Did you play with these things with other boys, other girls?
No, girls weren't part of the whole thing. I had a few friends that would come round for tea after school, and we would invariably play with Better Builder. I could be a bit possessive, I'll be the first to admit that. I was very tidy as a child, and I liked things just so. I was almost OCD, and if my cousins were around in my room and they'd been let in while I was out, they'd move things around. I used to go ballistic. And my mum would say, will you stop that? You're just like an old woman, she would say. It was just a big put down that would make me pull myself together.
If you'd made a construction, if you'd made a city or an underwater city, did you keep them for any length of time?
Not really, no. I would become used to the sight of them present in the room, different times of day, different times of night, waking up to them, doing something else. And then I'd soon grow tired of it and think, right, time to construct something else now.
So we know that your neighbour, a relative of yours, knitted toys for you and gave you those soft toys.
It was a neighbour.
It was a neighbour.
Opposite, yeah.
Who gave you the Better Builder? Was it a Christmas present?
Yeah, I think it was a Christmas present, and then it just started from there. And once shops that sold Better Builder, which obviously not as widely distributed as Lego, once they were located, I would think, aha, the finger would wag, and that was it. There's a Better Builder distributor there, so I don't know if I had pocket money, or now and again I'd get slipped half a crown, I guess, from my mum or my grandmother, and be able to get some.
Was it a toy that you asked for? Was it a construction set that you asked for, or were you just given it?
Well, I was given it originally. I think once I added to it by finding out where Better Builder was sold, that became probably the start of the collector in me. You know, going for something that's a little bit not mainstream, and thinking, well, this is cool because not everybody's got it.
Your father read to you and played with you in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Did he play with the Better Builder with you?
I'm not sure that he did. No, I can't recall it particularly.
It was your fantasy world.
It was. I could do what I darn well pleasing, really. Yeah. I also remember the James Bond Aston Martin in the mid-60s with the little bulletproof shield that would ping up behind from the boot of the car, and the ejector seat where James Bond himself, you would assume, although his features were indistinguishable, little plastic man, he would be able to ping out, and pretty much everybody at my school, Balfour Primary School, had that. And I think other kids' mums had the same problem of when it was time to go to tea, or you grow tired of the playing with the Aston Martin with the ejector seat and the little man going ping, mums would have to hoover the little man up, or just fall short of hoovering the little man up from the carpet, which on patterned carpets must have infuriated them no end. But it was the 60s after all.
It was indeed.
Yeah.
And you were probably... were you still using Better Builder at that time? I'm wondering if you put those two things together, whether you built garages for
Yeah,
it?
I used to mix the whole thing up. Yeah, I mean, what you had was a lot of rival toy car manufacturers, all the different sizes. Obviously, they're all here to see. And it wouldn't bother me that, you know, I would have a motorway that would have cars that were dwarfing other cars. What the hey, I thought, you know, it's a big wide road and they can all get on there.
Was that with the Better Builder, or was that separate?
Pretty much sometimes all mixed up as much as they could be compatible. And it's the same with, I think briefly, I had Scalextric and didn't get on too well with that. And also a railway set, very small railway set. I was fascinated by those with the little houses and buildings that you could make, outbuildings, bushes, trees. And I would like to mingle them up with all the other rest of my toy collection. So I was quite resourceful because anything that was in the cupboard, I'd pretty much put it all together and play with it, really.
So how constructed were the train sets? Did you make those up yourself?
No, they were pretty much already constructed. But that was relatively short-lived. I wasn't sort of madly enthusiastic about trains.
More cars?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And garages? And
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Putting them in and putting them out, that was half the fun.
Racing tracks?
Yes, yeah. But I suppose after a while I grew tired of toys altogether, really, and became more interested in television and doing impersonations of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Man in a Suitcase, Danger Man, all those espionage type TV programmes. A lot of us as kids were interested in them from a very early age.
Yes, I think so. It was a very exciting time, wasn't it? What about toys you didn't have? Were there any toys that you particularly wanted but you never had?
No, I can't recall that at all. No. I was never really what you call covetous, you know. I wouldn't be like a spoilt brat. People have said, oh, you're an only child, you must have been spoilt. But I wasn't really, because one Christmas I had a coat which was practical. That was my Christmas present. and I had to look and go, just what I always wanted, but that's kind of how it went sometimes.
What would you have wanted if you hadn't had the coat?
I think somewhere down the lines, I didn't used to have a Christmas stocking, I used to have a sort of Santa sack. There'd be something in there to say, oh well, the coat was practical, but here's the real gem.
What would the real gem be?
I think James Bond guns were also doing the rounds. I had more fun looking at the toy catalogue and selecting them in my mind than actually being presented with the toys themselves. Yeah, James Bond cap guns, as I recall, and there were different sizes of the Jerry Anderson puppet series Stingray vehicles. One manufacturer might do them sort of, fairly large in plastic, and then you have a little metal one, which was like, you have to strain your eyes out a little bit more to look at it, which was more interesting. And one of those, my parents, I'm pleased to say, in somewhere like Polperro in Cornwall, when we were on holiday, when it was my birthday in July, I went past a shop and just said, oh look, Stingray toy. And I thought, that's unusual, obscure, tiny little village in Cornwall, can't see that in Brighton. So little did I know, hastily one parent said, let's go and get an ice cream, while the other one had bought it, which was rather sweet of them when you think, because when I woke up in the tent in the morning and I looked at my presents and yeah, that was in the shop window the other day, and they said, yes, I know.
That's very exciting for a child, isn't it?
It was very thrilling.
Exciting
Yeah,
for a
they
child.
made the effort. Yeah.
You had a very wide variety of experience with your toys, it
Mhm.
seems to me.
Yeah.
Are there any particular instances, anything that really stands out in your memory as special?
Not particularly, because on one hand, whilst I was able to sort of recycle toys and not get too tired of them, they'd always get a little bit of use throughout the year until I gradually grew tired of toys, and nothing really jumped out at me particularly. I began to do a lot of drawing as well, so I was creating my own stuff really. I beg your pardon, you're very good at coaxing this out of me. There was a plastic red London bus, and it was large, and you were able to physically, it's very tactile, you could actually put little toys, like toy figures from other series, actually up the stairs. You can almost put, if you could get a pair of tweezers or something, you could put them through the windows and have them sitting down. And many was the time in my nan's wool shop in Elm Grove, where I used to play at the back, people used to say, I can't believe how content he is. They'd say, he just has that bus all day long, and he just mucks about with it and finds different permutations. So yeah, the bus would probably dwarf things created with the Better Builder set, but what the hey, the bus, now you come to think of it, the bus was top banana.
The bus was the thing.
And of course being a London bus as well.
Do you remember the number?
No, there wasn't any number on it. There was no stickers on it as such. It was just red plastic, and sort of all very basic, really.
Steve, thank you very much for coming
Thank
in
you.
and talking to us.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure
I'd nearly
talking
forgotten
to
about the
you.
London bus.
Well, you'll be able to think about that when you
I
go.
will do. And in those days in Brighton, because we were in Elm Grove and the race hill was at the top, there were fleets of buses laid on specially for the races, which you don't see now. And they used to come down the hill en masse at the end of race day. Yeah, I remember that very clearly.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much. Okay, good.